People come from all walks of life. They all have lives they lead. Any and all are welcome here to come and chat with me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today's guest, I met him a while back, and I wanted him on the show for a while, so I'm really pleased that he is here. He's the owner and producer of 4, as in the number 4, The Win Media. Ladies and gentlemen, Robbie Snooks. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, for sure.
Long overdue, for sure.
Pardon?
Long overdue, for sure.
It's nice, actually. It's really nice to have you here. I took the liberty to look up your last name. It's so fascinating. And it said it's an unusual and interesting name, and it's a topographical surname, denoting somebody who lived on a projecting piece of land.
Well, it's actually convenient that you've asked me this, because I've known a bit about my history. I did some searching and based on some documents that my father had found in my grandfather's house, and it was neat. They went back to the 1700s, and the name had changed over the years. So it might have started out as Sook, like Sooke, and then changed to Snook, and then at some point the S got added, whether it was a mistake on travel documents or. So as of now, there's a few of us around, but a good majority of them are located in Newfoundland, which is where I was born.
Oh,
yeah.
Is that
so
right?
I've lived across the country. That's a whole other story for another day, maybe.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. Listen, I love stuff like that. Definitely.
Okay, for sure, because I've lived in most provinces. So, anyway, so recently, my dad's good friend, like they're both retired, so I could probably imagine they have some extra time on their hands, but I'm very grateful for this. He's really dove into the ancestry tree of his friends and family, and he's uncovered an amazing amount of documents relating to my great grandfather. So there was a connection with Boston, Newfoundland and Boston. A lot of people traveled to work around the turn of the 19th century. Even my grandmother, she was adopted and lived there when she was little. But the newest piece of information which was neat is they were able to go back right to England, as far as the 1700s, and found out that I'm thinking it's four great grandfather was a ship captain. And he was a main pilot of one of James Cook's famous ships that actually discovered a good chunk of Newfoundland. So, nice piece of history in my background that I just recently learned about. So it was kind of neat.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when I looked up this, it did mention the 17th century too, where I found when I looked it up from England. And it mentioned the first word was SNOC. Then it was SNOKE. So it's kind of interesting, right? How things change over time.
Developed over the years. And it's interesting because I think my father pointed this out when I was younger. He goes, "Do you know?" Because there aren't many actual Robert Snooks, which is kind of neat. I mean, Robert's a pretty common name, but there aren't many, that's for sure. And if they have, they've either changed their name to Bob or that kind of variation. So, but the last Englishman hanged in England was a train robber, I think, and his name was Robert Snooks, which in like 1800 something.
Wow, that's so cool.
Hopefully no relation. But,
yeah. That's so fascinating. Thank you.
I know.
For sharing all that. I love that.
No problem.
Okay, now let's talk about your business. 4, as I told people, is the number 4 for the Win Media. What is that? What do you do?
Well, I do mostly sport production, video production.
Okay.
I got started. The long story of it is I graduated high school at 16. I was in Quebec at the time, so I actually went to a college program called Cégep.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Oh, there you go. So essentially you could either do, 2 or 3 year programs that can get a certificate, and usually it's enough to maybe get some entry level jobs in the government, or you could do a 2-year pre-university program which gets you credit, first year credit university if you continue like the same path. Cégep was interesting for me. I started off in science because I did very well in math and in high school. So I started off in science first semester, and I could tell right away that I was interested, but it just didn't give me the passion that I was looking for. I think I knew at a young age that I really wanted to do something I was passionate about. If it was something I was passionate, it was quite clear that that's what time was no factor. I would devote myself to it. And so then I moved on to business because I thought, okay, well, I'm good with numbers and analyzing things, so maybe that's a good approach. I did that for 1.5 years, and then I ended up going to Algonquin College, which is, it's more of a trades college, but there's a variety of programs. And I did a business/information systems course because at the time it was we're heading into the year 2000, and everybody was talking about the crash that might happen due to the year 2000 and all those computer systems that only had 2 digits instead of 4 for the date, right? So the big thing was learning COBOL, which was the base of a lot of programming. And so I did that for 1 year or so, and I was interested, but I found myself still thinking the same thing. Like I don't see myself doing this. Like, they were offering $40,000-$50,000 jobs out of school, and that it didn't even faze me. I was like, that doesn't really matter to me. And my dad was actually working in Indonesia at the time, with a big pulp and paper plant, and he had been there for a few years, and he said, why don't you come and stay with me for a bit? So I went to Indonesia, and I think that's where I had some time to kind of obviously see these cultures and just talk with people. And clearly it didn't matter. Like, even the poorest living in the shanty towns, they were happy. They were, as long they were doing, it didn't matter if you're working in some 100th story,
I know, I've been there, so
finance department, and I actually watched a lot of sports, and I watched a lot of MTV Asia because I was by myself a lot of the time. And to tell you the truth, that's where it sort of triggered that, like I always wanted to be a professional soccer player, but injuries and this and that, I kind of had to let it go. And I thought, I'd love to work in sports, and I have a passion for technology. I have a passion for production. And so right away, like while I was there, I hopped on the computer, and in retrospect, looking back, I probably should have went back to Algonquin and did the television program.
Right.
I don't regret this, but I did get advice to go, you should go to university and take a communications program where you can maybe get a better idea of what direction you want to take. Because if you go to the television program, like, you'll probably come out of it, get a camera job. But at least if you go and do your degree, you've already completed a couple years of university. Then you have that base, and you might have a better idea. Well, at the end of it, I started to volunteer at Rogers Television, which was similar to Shaw.
Right.
And it was basically volunteer ran with a handful of full-time employees. And that's where I learned everything. I got to be in a studio environment. I got to go out on shoots. I got to do sports, concerts. I got to be on stage with Bryan Adams and Nelly Furtado and ZZ Top and you name it. It was great because Rogers covered a lot of these events, mostly because they were offering the service for free probably as a community initiative in order to get funding. And so we were able to do all these things. And that's where I really got the bug. I didn't care that they were 16-hour days. I didn't care that, to me, it was no time. I loved hanging out with people with similar passions and just wanting to learn. And now obviously everyone had a different passion. Say maybe some people just wanted to do camera, and some people were fine with doing audio, and that was the neat part. And I found I had an interest in everything, which in time made me realize that, yeah, I'm interested in how the whole thing works. And yeah, it's important to know a bit about everything, but I was more wanting to put it all together. So Ottawa at the time, there wasn't a lot going on in terms of sort of paid positions. You could get a job at the TV studios. There wasn't a lot of film production at the time. Even some of the sport teams were really struggling. And it was around 2004 or 5, I think the Olympics were announced in Vancouver. And that was sort of the second light bulb to go off. I thought, you know what? My dad had been living out here since the early 90s. I went to visit a lot. And to me, it was the time. So I said, you know what? I'm going to plan to move out to Chilliwack, because I actually was in Abbotsford at the time, but he ended up moving to Chilliwack. And so I, over the course of 4 months, packed up all my belongings into 4 boxes and traveled my way across the country on a Greyhound bus. And luck have it, there was a trailer fire in the middle of Saskatchewan, and I lost most of my possessions.
Oh my goodness.
So it was a rough start, I'd tell you. Luckily, I don't know if it was intuition or just plain luck, but I had all my photo albums, and at the last minute before taping up the box, I looked at my mom and I said, you know what, you keep the photos here. And so those got saved, you could say, and now I have them back in my possession. So I was really glad I didn't put those in the box. But yeah, so that's how I got to Chilliwack. And then I'll try to make this short, but essentially it wasn't too long before I got connected with Wayne Price, who you might know, and he was working with the Chiefs at the time. And so I quickly started helping him, and then that led to taking over the production, and that led to doing the Bruins. And so I did the Bruins for 5 years, and then they were sold to Victoria. But anyway, so when there was about a month where, I didn't know what I was going to do, I had kind of put all my eggs in the one basket with the Chilliwack Bruins. I was doing a little things here and there, like weddings and dance recitals, and just to kind of make a little bit of money outside of the hockey. But the hockey was my base. And then when the team sold it, there was a moment of, what am I going to do now? And I remember that time pretty vividly. It almost actually similar. It kind of prepared me for the pandemic in a way, because I had kind of gone through the same thing where just like in the snap of your fingers, it was gone. And so luck have it, I made some connections in the WHL, and they were building a brand new rink in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. And they asked me if I wanted to come and set up their system and get them going. And well, I ended up staying for 3 years. And that was great too. It was really great living in Saskatchewan. So like I had, born in Newfoundland, and I moved to the Ottawa area, and I lived on the Ontario and the Quebec side. And then I took a Greyhound all the way to Chilliwack, and then I ended up in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. And yet again there, I met a lot of great people and made great connections. And I actually started working a little bit for like most of the teams in that area. So 5 or 6 teams I was working with. And around 2014, my wife and we got engaged, and we got married in Jamaica. And
oh, nice.
And it actually gave us some time away to sort of think like, where do we want our future to be? Like all her family is here. She was raised in Agassiz and then Chilliwack, and my dad is here, and it just made sense. If we want to start a family, we want to move back, and we really missed the valley. We missed our family, and so we packed up everything again and moved back to Chilliwack. So right. Since then, I've been working, for the Chiefs, working for the Whitecaps, working for the new Fraser Valley Bandits basketball team, and the past year doing a lot of virtual conferencing and just little things here and there to keep me busy. So I keep pretty busy, and that's more or less what I'm up to now.
Oh my God, that's also fascinating. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I understand about the passion because, like, I don't get paid for this. The idea was that when I was with Joe TV, that I was going to get sponsors, but it didn't happen, which is fine, you know, because I'm like you, I would do it because I love doing it, right? The pay is the bonus. And then, now in your case, you have to survive financially.
Yeah.
I'm different. I'm retired, so I don't have to worry about it. But I think that my belief is if you're not doing something you're passionate about, that somewhere deep inside, there's always this unhappiness.
For sure.
You know, so that's really, really good. And I can relate to some of the travel as well, you know, so there's certain things in common. What was your dad, just by the way, let's get back to, what did you say your dad was doing in Indonesia?
Well, he actually worked for Corrections Canada.
Okay.
And he was one of the sort of original, computer science degrees from Memorial University in Newfoundland, and worked on, right away. It's one of those degrees and skill sets where, right out of school, there was a massive, companies were competing to get graduates, right? Which is, is quite the opposite these days. But so he basically laid it all out, and, who pay and benefits and long-term and this and that, and corrections ended up being on the top of the list. And so, I started off Newfoundland, and then we ended up going to Nova Scotia for a little bit in Amherst, Nova Scotia. So we lived there for a year. My brother was born. And then he got a job in Ottawa at the national headquarters. And so we moved. That's how we ended up in the Ottawa area. And we started off in Aylmer, Quebec. It's now Gatineau as a whole, but it was a cute little town to grow up in. It was bilingual. You could get by being English. You could get by being just French. Most people spoke both in some form, whether it was good or not, but a lot of franglais. I don't know if you know what that means,
Yeah, I got this in Quebec, so.
Oh, yeah. Je dois parquer le car, stuff like that. That was pretty much how we spoke to each other. I played for soccer teams that had a mix of French and English. And so that's, we lived there for a while. And then, then around when I was 8 or 9, my parents got divorced, and my dad was stuck around for a while, and then he got a great offer out here at the Abbotsford regional office. So his job was, when he got out here, it was mostly, human resources, just managing all the computer science staff with the penitentiaries, and that was the bulk of his job. So the beauty about the government is sometimes you get these opportunities to sort of take sabbaticals, and this huge pulp and paper plant at the time, I'm not sure if it is now, but at the time it was the biggest in the world. Wow. So they were headhunting. It was on Sumatra, the big island in Indonesia. And they were headhunting, and they asked him for the opportunity. And at the time I was, 14 or 15. I didn't necessarily agree with it. I thought, I don't see my dad very often, and now he's going to go all the way across the world. But it wasn't until, I can honestly say I was a little disappointed. But then when I got to go, and it made me realize, now I understand why you have to take these opportunities when they come. Yeah. It opens up your world. It gives you a whole set of other skills. And even just me getting to visit, and then end up marrying an Indonesian. So I got to go back for the wedding and spend some time in Bali. And so, it was great. And and now, especially moving out here to be with my dad, there was a chunk of childhood that we weren't together, but we've more than made up for it. And he actually does camera for me at the games as well too. So
very nice.
Yeah. So if you ever see shaky cameras, that's probably my dad. No, he enjoys it. He does the camera that shoots the bench, and well, normally it would be fans, but right now it's cardboard cutouts.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is so fascinating.
Mhm.
Well, but I'm going to end it now, but
Mhm.
I'm definitely going to have you back on because like it really is fascinating, you know, and especially because I can relate to a lot of the things that I guess because of my age, I probably did it before you, but you know, living in different provinces and traveling, and
Mhm.
I was volunteering at Shaw. Anyway, we'll get back to that at
Yeah.
another time. But
Yeah.
just stay on camera, and I'm just going to say goodbye to the audience.
Yeah.
So, oh, wait a minute. I forgot to ask you though. Now, for your media, I know you concentrate mostly on the sports, but if somebody wanted to contact you for whatever reason, they
Mhm.
wanted to hire you, could
Yeah.
they do that?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, for the longest time, I basically was just getting work word of mouth, and I got some advice around, over a year ago that I should start branding myself a bit, just more like for people that might inquire.
Yeah.
I've been lucky. I've been getting a lot of work from just one job leading to the next, but you never know when that might go away. So the reason I came up with For the Win, because my cousin was visiting, and she's living in Tofino, and she had two little ones, and anytime she did something good, where they actually listened or something, they both would go For the Win, and I just thought it was hilarious, and it just another light bulb went off. And especially with sports, like if a player is going to shoot the basket at the last second, the call from the play-by-play is usually and Johnson for the win, so that's sort of how I kind of tied it in. But if anyone, obviously, it's not just sports. Sports has given me a really good base because
Sure.
it's quite difficult, managing a lot of cameras, a lot of people, a lot more technology. But of course, when I do the Business Excellence Awards and TED Talks, and I'm doing the high school grads this year. I did a few last year, and this year I'm doing all the three high schools, the big high schools. So if anyone wants to contact me I do simple production. If you just want to do a simple commercial up until a live event or a concert, any of that, you could reach me at 4 as in the number, thewin.ca. And there you'll find all the information. I just uploaded a bunch of production pictures and stuff that I've been meaning to do for a while, and some demos. So also because I do some graphics and animations as well. So if anyone is interested in those, there's some examples there on the website.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Robbie. But just again, stay on camera. So everybody, I hope you learned something really interesting and fun about Robbie Snooks. And if you want to hire him, I will post that when during the editing, your business name will be included. Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope to see you next time. Until then, peace out.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's a place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's a place to be, you'll see.